Okay, so we just start by allowing ourselves to just relax into the mat, allowing the floor to fully support you, taking deep breaths. Feel the spine elongate along your mat. And then from here, we're going to tuck and tilt the tailbone a few times, just to get some movement into the pelvis. You might find the head is rocking at the same time as the pelvis. That's absolutely fine. Just to allow that to happen. Allow any movement to happen. This session is all about encouraging the movement of the body. From here, we're just going to settle into a place where the pelvis feels neutral, which means not tucking and not tilting. And we tuck the tailbone towards our nose to peel the spine up towards the ceiling, one vertebra at a time. So just opening up the front of the collarbone here. And on the exhale, just bringing the spine back down. So we're going to do 2 more just like this. So I exhale to bring the spine up towards the ceiling. There's an inhale at the top here to pause. And there's an exhale to melt the spine back down to the floor. We'll do 1 more like this. So inhale, exhale, peel the spine up. It's almost like you're lifting a string of pearls off the mat. When you exhale and come back down, trying to hold the hips high for as long as you can as you just work through your spine. Okay, for these next 3, we're going to do something slightly different. We start the same though. We bring the spine up, all 10 toes pushing into the floor. Reach the arms up overhead. Keep reaching the hands, arms overhead, and then we're going to exhale, bring the spine down with the arms where they are. And once the hips come down to the floor, then we float the arms forward again. And exhale, peel the spine up. Once the hips as high as they'll go, without bringing pressure into lower back, we bring the arms up and overhead. Inhale there. As I exhale, I'm reaching my arms overhead. I'm reaching my knees in the opposite direction as my spine comes down. Hips down last. Arms float forward. Last one here. Deep in breath. Exhale, bringing the spine up. Reaching the arms overhead. On the exhale, melting the spine down. Right from the top of the spine, mid-spine comes down. Lower spine, hips come down last, and then arms float forward. And then from here, we're going to hug the knees in towards the chest. Keep the tailbone low to the floor if you can. Circle knees in one direction 3 times. And reverse that circle in the other direction 3 times there as well. I'm going to go for a hamstring stretch routine. So I'm holding onto the back of my right thigh, left foot onto the floor, and slide the leg long. So 6 of each of these moves here. On the exhale, just hug my thigh towards my body. On the inhale, I return the knee to over the hip. Exhale, draw in. Inhale, release. The breath pattern I'm giving you here is just a suggestion. If you're exhaling and I'm saying inhale, that's absolutely fine. As long as you're breathing, then we're good. I'm just really trying to keep the hips nice and square as I do this movement here. Moving without tension. Just getting some movement into the hip. Okay, so part 2, holding there. Hands interlacing still behind the back of the leg. And this time we just reach the right leg up towards the ceiling. We bend the knee, but we keep the thigh still. So the thigh stays still the whole time. We just reach the leg long. Bend the knee. The thigh stays right over the hip. So we're going to 6. I believe this is number 3. Again, just keeping those hips nice and square. Just feeling that stretch in the back of the thigh there, the hamstring. This should always be you working within your pain-free range. Just keeping the breath nice and smooth. So once we've done 6, we do the same 2 moves on the other side. So foot comes down, slide the leg long. Now the left thigh comes up, hold it onto the back of the leg. Relax the lower leg and hug the thigh in towards chest and release so the knee is over the hip, roughly. So I've got my left leg moving on this one. I'm trying to keep my right leg as relaxed as possible. I'm not thinking too much about what that right leg is doing, to be honest with you. It's just more about getting that left hip to move without hiking the hip. Keeping the breath smooth and not creating any unnecessary tension in the body. So we're going to 6 on these. And hold the thigh over the hip and reach the leg up long. Look after your knees on this one. Got really flexible knees. It's very easy to hyperextend. So just, yes, lengthen the leg, but maybe not too straight if that feels uncomfortable for your knee. If you wanted to pause the video and take some time, more time for these moves, you can. I've just done 6 of most movements here. Just try and keep this class relatively short. After you've done 6, we're going to bring ourselves up to a seated position for our spine stretch. So a few options for your legs here. You can go knees bent. You can have the knees out to the side. You can cross the legs if you can do a better job at it than I can. Or you can have the legs long. I went for legs long on this. Spine is nice and tall. Hands can be down or arms out in front, whichever feels good for the shoulders. The spine stretch, we just bring the spine down and forward whilst anchoring the hips to the floor. On the exhale, we just reverse this pattern, restacking the spine, head floats up on top last. So for this one, I imagine that I'm sitting against the wall and I'm peeling my spine away from the wall. And then I'm just restacking my spine up against that wall again. So lower spine, mid spine, spine, and head floats up on top last. We're going to 6. I think we've got 3 more here. As I watch this video back, I wish I bent my knees a little bit more. I feel like if I had my knees slightly more bent, I would have got better movement through my spine. I would have got more movement, is what I want to say, through my spine. So my spine's moving here, it's moving okay, but I could have got a more satisfying spine stretch, more satisfying articulation through the spine if the knees were bent. So just explore what that feels like for you in your body. Really trying to work for that sequential movement through the spine. The head floats up on top last. Chin parallel to the floor. I'm smiling there because I know that I have a tendency to bring my head up before my upper spine is fully restacked. So I think I try and focus on that a little bit more. This last one here, upper spine restacks, head floats up on top last. Chin is parallel to the floor. That's the beauty of Pilates. You do just get a chance to keep building on each move. I give you all these cues. You don't have to adjust every single thing that I'm saying in this one moment. Some days I'm focusing on that spinal articulation. Some days I'm focusing on something else. Anyway, hands behind the head. You can either interlace the fingers, hold them there, or you can have the hands across the chest. We're going to spine twist here. I'm going to go hands behind the head. Bringing the legs together. Again, bend the knees if you need to. We just want the spine nice and long. And then I rotate to my left. Inhale to the center. Exhale, rotate to the right. So my twist is coming from my last two rib cage. My last two ribs. It's around the areas where I'm finding that rotation. Keeping my hips nice and still. So you notice that my legs aren't moving, just the upper body rotating, and I'm trying not to lean back. Again, I probably could have done with slightly bending the knees on this one, but that's okay. We're going to come onto our side here. So right hand onto the floor, knees bent. You can keep the left hand onto your leg here, but I'm going to go left hand behind the head. Shoulder away from the ears. It's a modification of a side bend. So from here, we just side bend the rib cage up towards the ceiling. And then I exhale as my rib cage slides back to the right again. So I shift my rib cage to the left and up. I'm going a bit fast here. And then to the right again. This third one, we bring ourselves into a rotation. Open the chest out to the front again. And reset rib cage to the right. So my rib cage bends out to the left or shifts to the left. I rotate rib cage, my chest is trying to look towards the floor. Open the chest out to the front again. And then reset the rib cage down to the right, shoulder nice and stable. So look off your shoulder on this one. Rotating to look down. Chest comes forward, looks forward. And then we reset there. Now you're going to lie onto your right side here. Stay on that same side. You can either lie onto a bicep as I am there, or you can change the arm position, whichever makes your neck feel comfy. You can also place a cushion underneath your head there if you wanted to. So our bottom knee bends out in front, top leg comes up to your hip height, top arm reaches up and overhead. Now the aim is try and keep that top leg at your hip height. Knee comes in, reach leg long. We're going for 6. So a few things I'll just tell you here is that it's the knee coming to the chest and not the chest to the knee. When I reach my arm and leg long, I'm trying to reach as long as possible whilst keeping that leg at hip height. My hips are stacked, one on top of the other, so that also means my hip bones on both sides are trying to face forward. I exhale to hug the knee in. I inhale, reach, but that is just a suggestion. If the opposite works for you, that's fine as well. On that 6th one, we just stretch. And we go to do the same on the other side, except I forgot, and I was so keen to get back into this move again. I eventually realised that we have our side bend to do. The penny does drop. There it is. I'll do the same on the left. So left hand pushing onto the floor, right hand behind the head. And then we just shift the rib cage up as I push into my left hand. And my rib cage comes back down to the left again. So as I bring my rib cage to the right, it's almost like I'm trying to get my armpit to look up to the ceiling. And that's 2. Here's number 3. We hold on this third one, and then we rotate rib cage to look down towards the floor. We rotate rib cage looks forward again, and we allow the rib cage to shift back down to the left. Look after your shoulder here, so my shoulder staying away from my ear, rotating down to the floor. The chest looks forward. And last one. Rotate chest to look down towards the floor. That is the chest rotated, not the shoulder. And chest looks forward. And then we reset. Okay, now we come onto our left side. Hips stacked. Bottom knee bends out in front. Top leg comes up to your hip height. Top arm reaches up and overhead. And on your exhale, you hug the knee in towards your chest. 1. And reach long, long, long reach. And in 2. Go to 6. Here's 3. Trying to keep that top leg at hip height. This is number 4. Just make sure the hips are stacking. 5. Last one here, I believe. Let's see if I counted this right. Leg reaches long. So we've got a nice reach there. You lower that top leg down to the floor just to extend that stretch a little bit there. And then from here, we're going to come into a very quick rest position. I just push back just for a moment here, just to release off the back. Knees together, thighs together. And then we come onto our tummies. So just line onto your front here, allow the body to relax onto your floor, onto your mat. One hand on top of the other, forehead rests on the back of that top hand. Shoulders away from ears, the spine is long. On your inhale, you lift the head and chest away from the floor. And then exhale to bring the spine back down. We've got 6 of these. Now ideally your legs would be closer together. If I remember rightly, I was getting cramp in my foot as I went through this movement. So I think I was just trying to get through without stopping. But if you can bring your legs together, that'd be great. Toenails looking down to the floor, kneecaps looking down to the floor. Just keep the spine long. We don't want to feel this one too low into the spine. Gaze looking down and forward so the back of the neck is nice and long. As I say, it's not about how high you're coming up with the spine, it's about can you keep the spine nice and long as you lift. Do you feel pressure into your lower back? You can place a cushion underneath the hips there. Not too thick of a cushion, I would say about 1 inch thick. Folded hand towel also works well for that as well. And we are done. We're going to push back into rest position. Just look after your lower back as you push back there. Into your 4-point kneel, we have some sideways movement of the spine, just to each side. So here I just bring my right shoulder towards my right hip, trying to keep the hip still. Looking over the right shoulder, coming into center, left shoulder towards left hip, looking over to my left, in towards center, right shoulder, right hip. As I do that, my rib cage is opening out to the left. And come into center, and last one, left shoulder, left hip, rib cage opens out on that right side there, into center. Cat stretches, flat back to start. And as I exhale, just round the spine up towards the ceiling, head looking towards the hips. Inhale to reverse, try and keep the hips still, and we just send the chest forward. 2 more like this. So tuck the tailbone under, round the spine up. I try to create some height between my tips of my shoulder blades, because that's a part of the spine we often lack movement. So we just remember to move that part of the spine best as we can. As I send my chest forward, I pretend that I'm shining a light right out the center of my chest and into flat back. Last one, I believe, we're going to try 3 more slightly modified cat stretch after this last one here. If you prefer this one, you just go back to this one, sending the chest forward, pretending we're shining a light at the center of our chest. Okay, so here, right leg comes to the right side of the mat. You can go for the knee bent, or you can do what I do and have the leg long, whichever feels good for your body. And it's the same, we just go back into our cat stretches again. Try not to lean too far onto any one side. So try and keep the body nice and even as you can there. We're going 3. This is number 2, I believe. Open out the chest to the front of the mat. And then last one, really tucking that tailbone under. And then reversing out, sending the chest forward. Remember our imaginary light we shine out of our chest. Look after your kneecaps as you change over. I think do the same on the other side. I ran out of space as I did this, so just make sure you've got space. And again, 3 cat stretches here. Coming into your flat back, sending the chest forward. Just again, cat stretch is another one that I just like to just bring my mind's eye to my spine and just check in with how it's moving. Check in where the spine needs to take this movement. Just enjoy it really. And last one here, I believe, so we've done 3 each side. Into your flat back. Try and stabilize the hips as you send the chest forward. And again, look after your kneecap as you bring the leg back in. Push into your rest position with the knees together. You can also bring the hands under the head if that's more comfy for you. Well done. We are all done here. Just relaxing, releasing off the wrists there. Hope you enjoyed that. Do like and subscribe if you did. And I will see you on the mat next time. Take care.